I'm Dr. Tracey Marks, and I make mental health education videos. Today's video is based on several viewer questions on the issue of talking to your doctor or therapist about your diagnosis. Fancy Sassy says, how do you get your doctor to recognize you have bipolar disorder? And Chelsea says, I was diagnosed with bipolar and depression, and after watching this, I definitely think I'm borderline. How do I tell the doctor I don't think I have bipolar disorder without disrespecting him? Thanks, Fancy Sassy and Chelsea and others who ask this question. It's no secret that people get information from the internet, so when it comes to seeing your doctor, you don't need to tiptoe around this issue. But of course, you don't want to say, I think you got the diagnosis wrong. No one wants to start a conversation feeling criticized. The issue with your doctor or therapist is not that you read about a diagnosis. The issue is how you convey the information to your doctor. Here's one way to approach this. Since Chelsea's doctor is a male, I'm going to say he and doctor, but this can also apply to your therapist. You can start by saying, I know you've diagnosed me with this problem, but I was reading about this other problem and some of the things seem to fit me. Do you think I could have this problem? Now, let's stop right here and look at how I frame the question. It's just a question. It's not judgmental or critical of your doctor's professional opinion. It also shows that you take interest in understanding what's wrong with you. The last part of the question shows some deference to your doctor's expertise by asking him what he thinks. If your doctor gets angry because you read about something or that you're questioning his opinion, then you're seeing the wrong doctor. It's your doctor's job to educate you on your illness, and if you have a question about it, he should be there to answer those questions without being defensive about it or verbally punishing you just for asking. Here's the key part, though, that can make this a very productive appointment. You want to come to the appointment with your specific symptoms written out and go over them with your doctor. Let me explain. If you say, I think I have symptoms of bipolar disorder, your doctor's going to start thinking, what are these symptoms that you have that you think fit bipolar disorder? What are the manic symptoms? And what are the depression symptoms? But most doctors aren't going to ask the questions that way. They're going to ask you questions about how you feel to pull these symptoms out of you. So, if you've identified 5 symptoms that seem to resonate with you, you want to write these down using specific examples from your life and discuss them. You don't want to use only terminology. That's where it can become frustrating for the doctor to figure out your illness if you're using terms you read from the internet. Here's an example. Susan comes to me and says, I don't want to diagnose myself, but I read about anxiety and I think I'm anxious. So I say, how do you experience that anxiety? And she says, I don't know, I just know I'm anxious. I can't explain it. I just don't like the way I feel. I could have just said, okay, you're anxious, here's an anxiety pill. That would be the easy thing to do, but that wouldn't have served her well. And this is where using terminology is a problem. There are different ways that people can experience anxiety, and the symptoms that you have dictate what kind of medication will work better for you. If you have a lot of physical symptoms like heart racing and sweating, you may do better on a beta blocker medication or a medication like hydroxyzine. If you have a lot of worry, you may respond better to an antidepressant or cognitive behavior therapy. If you have thoughts that you can't get out of your head, which are obsessions, there are medications that we preferentially use for obsessive compulsive disorder. So it turns out after an hour of talking to Susan and extracting out her actual symptoms, her problems really weren't an anxiety disorder. It was more of a depression with anxiety mixed in. There is overlap between depression treatment and anxiety treatment, but you want targeted treatment. And the more information the doctor has about what you actually experience, the better treatment that you can get. So here are some examples of actual symptoms of experiences. For anxiety, you wake up each morning with your chest pounding. You lost 10 pounds because you get a stomach ache after you eat, or you have no appetite. You sleep only about 4 hours a night and it's broken up. Depression symptoms may be that you always feel like you're holding back tears, or you cry almost every day. You feel like your energy is drained even when you haven't been doing anything. Now, these are just examples of symptoms, but the idea is that this is the level of detail that you want to give your doctor about what you're actually experiencing. So rather than saying, I have anxiety, what do I take for that? You say, this is what I've been experiencing. I have this problem. This isn't working right. This, I don't like the way I feel because I have this. And those are the kinds of details that are much more helpful. One viewer who asked this question said that she wanted to talk to her doctor about having borderline personality disorder because she fears abandonment and she engages in splitting. You don't want to use those kinds of terms. Yes, your doctor should know what those terms mean, but they need to be broken down to ensure that you're both speaking the same language. So instead of saying that you fear abandonment, describe how you always feel anxious in relationships and think that the person is going to leave you, so you break it off first. Most people don't say that they're splitting. That's a term that's usually used by clinicians to describe a defense mechanism that someone uses when they split off good and bad. But it's not helpful to use these terms in the diagnostic process. So instead, you would describe your behavior and let the doctor draw his own conclusions about how that fits into the diagnostic picture. So that's the first step. And I have a template that you can use that you can download from my website. And I'll have a link for that in the description. But first you want to list your symptoms and bring a copy for your doctor to put in your chart and read it while you're going over the list. Why write these things down? Because it gives you a chance to think things through before the appointment. It also puts your doctor on notice that you have some things that you want to talk about so he can gauge the timing of the appointment. It can be frustrating for you and the doctor to spend the entire time talking about various things, then in the last 5 minutes as he's wrapping up, you've got this big issue that you didn't get a chance to bring up. The list gives the doctor a chance to know the scope of what you need to cover in the appointment. The next thing to do is to include the timing of the symptoms on your list and how long do they last? When did you first notice them? Is there anything that triggers them? Have you had these symptoms before and when? I've had people start to tell me their symptoms and without realizing it, they end up going back and forth in time telling me things that happened 5 years ago. And I'd have to backtrack to figure out what's currently going on versus what happened in the past. So thinking through a timeline can help. And this is important because while you're talking, your doctor is putting together a narrative in his head as to the timeline of your symptoms. He wants to know what an episode looks like and how long it lasts. And this can be an episode of anxiety, depression, or anything. And are there periods of time that you go without symptoms? And how does what you're going through now compare to what's happened in the past? This information answers the question, is what you have today just another episode, or is it something that's getting worse and worse over time? And that's important to know. Now, these aren't questions that you're expected to answer. These are questions that your doctor is thinking about and trying to figure out. So the cleaner and clearer the data that you give him, the more precise he can be in figuring out what you have. And the data is your symptoms and the timing, that's all. You don't have to know what's wrong with you. You just need to be able to explain what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. The last thing you want to have is your own medication list. And you would include past medication trials and current medications that you're taking from other doctors and over-the-counter drugs or natural remedies. You want to include any negative reactions that you've had to medications. If you keep this list on your computer, you could update it as needed. Now you may be wondering, why should I have to do all that work? Here's how this list can help. It helps your new doctor and all of your doctors know what you're currently taking so that they don't prescribe something that negatively interacts with something that you're already taking. If you've been taking other psychiatric medications in the past, even if they were prescribed by your family doctor, It helps your new doctor know what not to prescribe so that you don't take something you've already been on before. Some treatment protocols suggest that if a person doesn't respond well to one category of medication, that you should switch categories. So if you have this past medication list handy, it will inform your doctor as to which direction to take with the new medicines. To make this information as readable as possible, you want to make it in a bullet list format. You don't want to give your doctor a 10-page, one-paragraph narrative. So here's a template. You list your current symptoms, and these will be the things that are going on with you now. Then you include when the symptoms started. In order to know what symptoms to include, you could list the things that you feel are not right with you. Or you could list the symptoms that match something you read about. Then next, you want to add the time factors and how long your current symptoms last. You don't have to be exact. Your doctor wants to know, do they last minutes versus hours versus days? These are just rough estimates. Then you list your past symptoms, and these may be the same as the current, and if that's the case, then just say the same. Then you want to list when you experienced them. So, for example, you could write, I felt most of this stuff 3 years ago, and then it went away for a few months. Or, I felt this stuff for most of my life, on and off since I was a teenager. Then you would list your medication history, and I would say keep this as a separate list and bring it with the symptom list, because this is something that you're going to want to update and give to your other doctors. And you would list all of your current medications, and then for the psychiatrist, you would list your past medications and reactions, good or bad, and include when you took the medication. If you don't remember the dates, then just indicate, was it in last year versus 10 years ago when you were a teenager? If you walk into your doctor's appointment with this kind of information in hand, your doctor will be thrilled because he or she can spend more time teasing out the fine details and really nailing down your diagnosis and have more time to explain his analysis to you. I said earlier that it's your doctor's job to educate you about your illness, but if he doesn't have any time left over, then it doesn't happen. So if you do this, let me know how it goes. See you next time.